Who here has ever raised the standard and you get out there and you go, I'm going to go do this. And I'm committed. I'm going to change this. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to take my company to the next level. And you're all excited. And then all of a sudden this voice in your head goes, who are you kidding? Who's ever had one of these? Raise your hand. CIA. So once you raise your standard, you got to get certainty behind it. You can sustain it. Well, that means you got to change your limiting beliefs. You got to change your limiting beliefs. Yeah. And who has limiting beliefs, by the way? Who everyone does. So you got to become aware of it and you got to destroy it. Now, how to do that? Honestly, if you've been to the Up You Sub, you know how. If you haven't come to join me in San Jose or someplace else, when you change your limiting belief, everything changes. Because as you believe, so is it done unto you. If you believe you're right, you believe you're wrong, you're right. Because whatever you're certain about, you find a way to support it. So you always teach people to exercise. Try this, and if you know it, do it fresh. Look in this room real fast for everything. It's brown in this room. I'm going to give you a test. What's brown? Quick, look for brown, look for brown, look for brown, brown. Here, brown clothing, brown, close your eyes. Tell me everything you saw in this room. That's red, raise your hand. If you see more brown than you have in red, and say, I open your eyes. Now look for red, 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 look everywhere for red, look for red. So raise your hand if you found more red this time. Raise your hand, say, why? Because you're looking for it. Because whenever you focus on, you'll find, in fact, you'll find stuff that's not there. How many saw Burgundy called it brown just to feel successful? How many saw Burgundy called it red just to feel successful? See, once you believe something a certain way out of your need for certainty, you'll change things to meet that belief. Let me show you in 2 seconds flat where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I call it the success cycle, real fast. Draw yourself 4 squares. And up on the screen here, you'll see, as I do this, take a quick look. You'll notice you've got the word potential up in the left-hand square. Up in the right-hand square is the word action. Bottom right is the word results. Bottom left is the word belief, or another word for that would be a sense of certainty. Potential action, belief results. And notice there's arrows in a clockwise fashion where they just keep feeding each other over and over and over and over. So again, it's potential action results, belief. Or another word for that would be certainty. That you ever noticed how rich people tend to get richer and poor people to get poor. And I don't just mean rich in financial terms. I mean people that are rich emotionally. Jim knows that happy people tend to get happier. Depressed people tend to get more depressed. How many found this to be true? Say aye. It's because the power of momentum and what I'm about to show you. So let me show you something here. What's the potential of any human being? You tell me, quick unlimited, do most people's results reflect that true potential? Yes or no? No way. Why? Because most people aren't taking enough. What? But is it possible to take a lot of action and still get lousy results? What if you got a salesman that works for you and they walk out and they knock on 100 doors and they say, you wouldn't want to buy anything from me, would you? Or they don't say that verbally, but they see it non-verbally. Is that going to affect their results? Yes or no? So it's not enough even to take enough action. Because when we believe it's not going to work or we're uncertain, does that affect how much of our potential we tap? Yes or no? See, if you don't think it's going to work, you're not going to put out a bunch of your energy. When you think it's going to fail. And by the way, when you're not sure, you tap a little potential. Do you take little or a lot of action? When you're not sure, when you think it's not going to work, you take massive action or little action. Now, when you take little potential with little action, what kind of results? You get little lousy results. And when you get lousy results, what does that do to your belief? See, I told it wasn't going to work. Told you it was a waste of time. And then, by the way, when you have less belief, how much more potential do you take? More or less. If it's possible, you tap less potential. Or this action, less. And what happens to your results? They get even what? And now that you got worse results, what does that do to your belief? And by the way, now you see the current economy. Isn't it true? Everybody out there is going, oh my God, the results are so bad, it's going to get worse in the future. So I better pull my horns. There's less potential, so I'm not going to push as hard. I'm not going to take much action. Oh my God, I'm getting lousy results with little potential action. Oh my God, it's going to get worse. That's what creates a recession, depression, whatever we want to call it. How do you change that? By the way, can it work the opposite direction? What would happen if something inside you gave you so much certainty inside of you that you felt absolutely certain that recession was your friend, that the worst economy for you was the greatest time on earth, and all you had to do was manage your state and apply your fundamentals and immerse? Stay coached so you don't get off the target, keep taking action. And you could own your business and you go to other people's businesses. How many believe that, by the way? Now when you have that kind of certainty, are you going to use more of your potential when you go home or less? Which one of my friends are you going to take less or more action when you are certain? And you use lots of your potential with massive action. What kind of results do you get? Massive action gets massive results. What kind of belief do you get now when you get better results? You go home, use your core story, you go home and you take one of these techniques, you get a different response. You go home and you stimulate a new source of profit or income. You go home and you add a service, go home and do anything and it works. Your brain goes, yeah, it works. You know, by the way, at a Homex, we went in there. Thank God we went in there because they took our stuff and it looked like it wasn't working. Do you remember that? Because some people there didn't want the change to happen. So we had to dig in and find out it was working. We knew you can't take action, you can't sow that seed and reap nothing. So we uncovered what was really going on. You're gonna have to watch for the same thing depending upon the size of your organization. But bottom line, when you get great results, belief gets stronger. Now you're totally certain. Are you gonna use more or less potential, my friends? Which one more? You're gonna take even more what? Gonna even greater what? Even more certainty. And now what happens to your business? And now you have a different momentum. And so your economy does not have to reflect the economy. You get to create your economy. You get to decide whether you freeze to death or ski or snowboard. It's winter, but you can have the best time of your life. It could be a sunny, beautiful, magical time. But what you got to do is you got to manage this process. In order to do it, you got to change your limiting beliefs. And this week has been about doing that by giving you so many tools and examples that you'd be immersed. But I promise you, when you go home, all this is going to be tested. Because all the stuff that's waiting for you after being gone for 5 days. B, all the people that you work with, their limiting beliefs, whether you have one employee or two, because you're up in an army of 1 or 2 people, or whether you got 10, 0. So you have to be able to implement this, by the way, is I'm going to sell you, bring us in. Who can help? You think we could help? Yes or no? Yes or no? Bring us in. We'll do it. Or get your team together and find a way to make sure this momentum goes in the right direction. Makes sense. This is the must. If you have this high standard, but you don't really believe, because the momentum is in the wrong direction, having the tools will be worthless. That's where certainty. That's where everything else we teach. That's what I do in my events. That's where you guys have been there before. That's what you got to bring to the table. What are the 5 keys for integrating this? Number 1, you got to go home and raise your what? Come on, guys. Raise your what? Which means turn your shoulds into step number 2. You got to go out and change your limiting what? Find anything that limits you and destroy it. What's the fastest way to destroy it? You can do it very quickly by producing the results in your mind word over again. Why do you think I get people to walk on fire? Because they think it's impossible. When they walk in this fire, mentally you might say, oh, I can do it. But when they get in front of that fire and it's 2,000 degrees burning hot coals, it gets their full attention. And suddenly they have a state change. And when you get yourself in a state where you can storm through fire, it's not about fire walking. The state you're going to get yourself to walk across fire is the metaphor for anything that used to stop you, the fire of your life. And by the way, when you cross fire and you're on the other side doing something you once thought was difficult or impossible, it's that easy. Your brain goes, what else can I do that I thought was impossible? It's unbelievable. It's not intellectual, it's emotional. Plus, after fire walking, cold calling is not a problem. You get the idea, ladies and gentlemen, right? So what we're really talking about here is changing your beliefs. Now, here's the 3rd key. If you're going to get maximum results, you've got a model. We brought you for 5 days and nights here, models of what works, go back and get them. Now, here's where the challenge is. How many got tons to do in your normal list of things to do when you go home? I'm going to get a lot to do. Say, how many are a lot of outcomes you got to go after? Say, how many are the same amount of time you had before? Say, So in your business, if you need something to get done, you get it done because it's an absolute what you hire someone to get it done. Hire us, hire someone else, get somebody inside. But are these things you're going home with must or shoulds? Which one? Do whatever it takes. So I don't have the money, you don't have the money, not to forget us. Hire somebody who's an individual who knows what they're doing and put them in there. Leverage yourself. The only way you're gonna get the game bigger is by taking a little bit of what my friends risk, but that means get yourself some resources, be resourceful enough to get the resources. What's great about this? What is this opening? What is this creating? What's possible? What have I not seen that's going to make me see? What have I learned from this? What can I learn from this? What am I willing to do to still have it the way I want it? That's the fourth step you get. You intensify and you innovate, and then there's a final fifth step. That fifth step's really simple, my friends. And that is step up and give more than anyone else could possibly expect. The ultimate transformation happens when you stop trying to get, you start to give whenever you're at your best. You're giving. I remember so vividly driving in my car, my Volkswagen Bug, and I was struggling and I was 19 years old. So when I was driving on a freeway in San Gabriel Valley, the 210 freeway, I'll never forget, and it's midnight and I'm frustrated. I felt like I tried everything. I had these big hits like the one you just saw. Nothing was going my way, and I was frustrated. And I kept thinking, how come I'm not getting what I want? And all of a sudden, it just hit me on the freeway. Just say, pulled it over the side. It was almost midnight, no cars really around. It hit me, grabbed my journal. I wrote, I still have the journal to this day from when I was 19 years old. Full page, and I wrote, the secret to living is giving. And I realized why I wasn't doing well, because I was all focused about what I wasn't getting. I was not focused on what I was not giving. And the whole game changed, but you can't have a standard education and expect to have an extraordinary life. It's not gonna happen. The one breakthrough for all leaders is constant, never-ending improvement. And that means educating yourself and continuing to develop even greater emotional mastery, because that's what affects whether you execute or not. The opportunity for self-education is there. We have to change our psychology from, I'm gonna do what everybody else does. You know, I'm mad because it doesn't work anymore. To the reality is this, the greatest time to be alive. If you're growing, you're learning, you're educating, and you're developing valuable skills. So instead of complaining, you gotta say, where are the skill sets valued in the marketplace? And how did I work harder on myself than anything else? Because if I become more valuable, then I will be able to give more, do more, and change more. When I interviewed Warren Buffett, I asked him the most important investment he ever made in his life. You know what he said it was? I was thinking all the companies he'd done, you know? He said, Tony, going to Dale Carnegie, said when he goes, because by developing myself, that's the most important investment. Those skill sets, learning how to persuade, learning how to speak, learning and influence, all my ideas would have died on my lips. If I hadn't been able to influence, and I learned it from that little course, most valuable thing I ever did in my life. He said,